Hello, I am in Spring City, Utah in Sanpete County, kind of up on the east bench of Sanpete County, in the middle of the county. I've got a little bit of time today, so I wanted to visit the home and the grave of one of my favorite people in Utah history and certainly in the history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and that is Orson Hyde. Orson Hyde's home, one of his homes is here in Spring City. I'm going to be stopping there in a minute. He died here in Spring City in 1878, had lived here in Sanpete since about 1860. That's when Brigham Young appointed him to Sanpete to kind of oversee the area. He lived here with several of his wives, and then he was buried in the Sanpete cemetery. But there are several interesting things about Orson Hyde. He was baptized into the church in 1831, but was a little bit hesitant at first, kind of similar to Brigham Young. He took some time to think about it, had several questions for Sidney Rigdon when he was kind of learning about the gospel initially, but then agreed to be baptized. In 1835, he became an apostle, and he was actually, incidentally, he was baptized by Oliver Cowdery, and that's going to come into play a little bit later on. I'll probably talk more about that at the grave. But Oliver Cowdery, who was a member of, or part of the three witnesses to the Book of Mormon, was one of the ones that was involved in the choosing of the original 12 in 1835, Orson Hyde being one of those. And so he had seniority in the 12 for a good majority of his life. I'll talk a little bit about that later on as well when we go to the grave. But let me take you to his house first. I'll kind of show you around a little bit, and then we'll go to the cemetery. Okay, here we are at 209 South Main Street in Spring City, at the house of Orson Hyde and Mary Ann Hyde. The house was actually completed in 1865. Parts of it were kind of destroyed over the years as it grew older, and they rebuilt it, but it's in great shape now. And this is the house in Spring City where Orson Hyde lived with Mary Ann Hyde. He also had several other wives that lived here with him as well. So there's kind of a barn out in the back. Beautiful house here. I'll take you to the cemetery in a minute. Let's go around to the other side, kind of give you a different angle. The house across the street looks very similar as well. But yeah, it was right here. It's been very well cared for. We'll get you to his grave in a minute. Let's kind of zoom in so it's not quite so shaky. So we're gonna kind of go over to this main road here and then take a left at this point. So when you're going left, take a left, go all the way down, all the way down. And Orson Hyde's grave will be on the left, kind of right on the corner. Several of his wives are buried there as well. We'll stop and get out and take a look at it. Right there, that large stone there. Let's get out and take a look at it. Okay, the Spring City Cemetery was established in 1857. During the latter part of the 1850s and up through the 1860s, a lot of British members of the church that had recently moved to Utah were sent to this area, as well as Scandinavians, by Brigham Young. In 1860, as I mentioned, Orson Hyde, whose headstone is right here. Read on it, Apostle of the Lord Jesus Christ, defender of truth, preacher of righteousness, born Oxford, Connecticut, January 8th, 1805, died Spring City, Utah, November 28th, 1878. He was sent here to sort of head up the area. Elizabeth Hyde buried just to the side, and that is a daughter. And there are several stones around here. Orson Hyde Jr. Buried here, died in 1946. as we look around. Sophia Margaret Hyde, kind of right behind. I would assume this stone was probably a Hyde initially. Let's go ahead and look at the backside of the stone. Under appointment, he proclaimed the restored gospel in Europe, Asia, and America, and dedicated Palestine for the return of the Jews. The Lord knoweth the days of the upright, and their inheritance shall be forever. Erected by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in 1939. So let's go ahead and talk about him a little bit. Hello, I'm here at the headstone, the grave marker of Orson Hyde. This is in the Spring City Cemetery in Sanpete County, Utah. Orson Hyde, very significant person in the history of Utah and in the history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He was baptized in 1831. Was a little bit hesitant at first, as I mentioned, but decided to join the church, one of its earliest members. And in 1835, early in 1835, he was called to be one of the original 12 apostles of the Restoration. The three witnesses, David Whitmer, Martin Harris, and Oliver Cowdery, they were the ones that Joseph Smith deemed with the responsibility of choosing the original 12 to be ratified. And also, incidentally, Oliver Cowdery actually baptized Orson Hyde when he joined the church. That's going to come into play later on. In 1838, at the beginning of 1838, well, in April, Oliver Cowdery was excommunicated from the church along with David Whitmer. Martin Harris had left the church late in 1837. And so that left kind of a scattered group going to Missouri to found the church there, to continue the church there. Leading up into November of 1838, Orson Hyde was then one of those who testified against the prophet Joseph, along with W.W. Phelps and a few others, Thomas B. Marsh, that ended up leading to Joseph and 5 other men being put in Liberty Jail for several months up until April of 1839. In 1839, Hyde rejoined the Saints and was given then, at that point, his initial ordering in the 12 Apostles, ordering of seniority. He also was one of the first missionaries to serve in England, along with Heber C. Kimball. And he also served a mission that a lot of us have heard about, starting in 1841, where he went all the way to Jerusalem and dedicated the land of Palestine for the eventual preaching of the gospel. Was gone for many, many months on that mission. And then in 1847, the first presidency was reorganized on December 27th of 1847. And that was in Canesville, which is Council Bluffs, Iowa, right across the Missouri River to the east from Winter Quarters. Later in 1847 going to 1848, Oliver Cowdery, who had left the church and been gone for about a decade, expressed interest in rejoining the Saints. And in November of 1848, November 12th, I believe, he was rebaptized by Orson Hyde. So Oliver Cowdery, who had baptized Orson Hyde initially in 1831, was then rebaptized by Orson Hyde in 1848. Oliver Cowdery then returned to his family, the Whitmers. He was married into the Whitmer family in Missouri, and ended up passing away at a young age in his early 40s of tuberculosis. But I love this spot because it's kind of off the beaten path. It's far away from the Salt Lake Cemetery, where you might picture a lot of the apostles' graves and the prophets' graves. Orson Hyde, as I mentioned, was essentially president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles from 1847 to 1875. A long, long time, several decades. And then in 1875, a reordering took place. Brigham Young, along with several of the 12, deemed it their duty to remind Orson Hyde and Orson Pratt that they had lost their ordering in the 12 in the late 1830s and into the 1840s, when Pratt also left the Quorum of the 12 for a short time due to an incident with his wife, Sarah Pratt, involving John C. Bennett and the prophet Joseph Smith, and then he rejoined the 12. So they had that seniority for that long period of time, and then in 1875, John Taylor and Wilford Woodruff were put at the top of the 12, and they would become the third and the fourth president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, respectively. This is a beautiful spot. If you walk around, I pointed out several headstones. There's also a really cool pioneer headstone way down there. I'm going to take you by that in a minute. But I've always loved that grave marker. Pretty rural cemetery. We're on the east bench of San Pete County. And Orson Hyde, one of my heroes. All right, as promised, I'm going to take you over and show you this really cool grave here in Spring City. It's the Hanson grave plot, erected in 1891. This is very unique. You won't see a lot of plots like this in Utah. Take you around the side. Very, very cool looking. Yeah, that's a cool one. And Orson Hyde would be right over there, right behind those trees.